My name is Julia. I'm a sales team lead at devtodev. And for the last 5 years, I've been in the gaming industry, helping game developers to find solutions to their analytics problems and building data-driven culture in their teams. And based on this experience, I've created this session, which for some of you may become a starting point for growing your game with analytics. I'm also the host of an online course, Game Analytics from Basic to Advanced Strategies, so feel free to Google it and watch it. Okay, and now to the agenda for today's session. First of all, we are going to look at the key tasks that product analytics helps us with. So we would answer the question, why do we need product analytics? Second, we will look at what types of analytics exist on the market and think about which setup is right for you. Next, we're going to prepare for data collection, and for that, we will look at how to create a map of events for tracking user activity. And finally, we will look at how to create a united ecosystem of tools to organize your data in a organized single view, so it's easier for you to make correct decisions with data. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Why do we need product analytics? At the end of the day, the answer is quite easy. It's all about the profitability of your project. Of course, all of us here want our project to be successful, to attract many players. We want them to enjoy the game and to contribute to your revenue. And analytics helps us to achieve this global goal with a set of smaller steps, with a set of several everyday tasks. And you can see them here on the screen. First of all, analytics helps us to identify effective and ineffective user acquisition channels. Because remember that your lifetime value should in the end be at least 3 times higher than customer acquisition costs. Also, analytics helps us to analyze behavior of different user segments and find reasons behind these certain behaviors and behind metrics changes. Also, analytics helps us to identify points of growth. These are these places in the game where some changes, sometimes even small changes, can bring to considerable improvements in metrics. And once we've identified these points of growth and we want to check our hypothesis, we again turn to analytics. We conduct A/B testing and see if this new feature is going to work or not. And finally, once we release this new feature for the whole audience, we again need analytics to evaluate the effect of the new feature on your metrics. Okay, so to be able to perform these tasks on a daily basis, you need an analytics system. Let's try to choose it. Generally speaking, there are 2 types of analytics setups. One of them is in-house analytics, and another there is ready solutions. And these ready solutions, they can be free or they can be paid solutions. Let's look first at in-house. This is the setup that you can see on your screen in the scheme at the bottom of the slide. We have an app that sends data to the database. Then developers write SQL queries to extract data from the database. And also sometimes they attach visualization tools such as Tableau or Power BI to their database to bring data in a beautiful view in form of charts, tables, and dashboards. The main advantage of in-house analytics, I think it's easy to guess. Of course, it's the most flexible setup you can imagine. You can answer literally any question with it. But with advantages come also some shortcomings, which I think you should be aware of in case you're going for this setup. And first, it's the lack of native integrations with other tools. So when you're working on your game, you probably would need some additional tools, for example, for sending push notifications, for conducting A/B testing, for user acquisition. And to connect it with your in-house setup, you would need to struggle with the API. In ready solutions, you usually have a native integration. Second point to remember is that in-house is not a totally free solution, because many people confuse it. So when you're going for in-house, you would need to pay for servers to store data. Then also visualization tools require sometimes additional servers to speed up their work. And finally, remember that you would still need to pay the license for the visualization tool, for example, for Tableau. In the end, it's not a free solution. You would need some budget to build it and to maintain it as well. The next point is remember that to work with in-house, you would need an analyst with a knowledge of SQL or Python. So basically, in many cases, your decision makers, such as product managers or producers, marketers, they will not be able to build reports themselves. They would need to turn to analysts who would build these dashboards and reports for them. And there is a risk that an analyst can become a so-called bottleneck in the workflow when, for example, your team needs a lot of insights urgently, but only one person, only one analyst is working on creating these dashboards. Also remember, if you're going for in-house, you would need to build everything from scratch. So in ready solutions, for example, you have a lot of metrics, dashboards that are prepared, but in the in-house, you would need to build everything from literally zero. And also in the in-house, you will not have ready filters, which can speed up your work. So for example, in ready solutions, sometimes you can choose a group of users with literally one click. So for example, if you want to choose a group of users of paying users or highly paying users, we call them whales. Or for example, if you want to select users only of a particular app version, it's very easy, just one click and you have this group of users selected. In-house, it's going to be more complicated. Okay, with that being said, let's look at ready solutions. What are their advantages and what are their disadvantages? First of all, ready solutions are very easy to integrate and start working with. Usually it's just a simple SDK that you integrate into your app and you're ready to go. Also, there is always a documentation with a step-by-step guide that will help you. And there will be also instruction on how to connect additional tools to your technical stack. The second point is that sometimes ready solutions can be cheaper than building in-house from scratch. Because remember, you would not need to pay for servers, for visualization tools. You can save on resources of your analysts, on your programmers. So here you need to calculate for yourself, but sometimes it can be cheaper to use a ready solution than building everything from scratch. And the third very important point is that with ready solutions, decision makers have direct access to data. So for example, your game designers, your producers, they can go to the analytics platform, they can build a dashboard or report that they need very quickly and make decisions they need. And speed is very important in decision making, you know that. As a bonus, your analyst will be able to focus only on the most complex questions that are really worth their attention. And what are the shortcomings? Of course, ready solutions are usually less flexible. You cannot answer all questions with out-of-the-box reports. That is why my recommendation would be, if you're going for a ready solution, make sure that it has something like SQL tool inside, or at least that you can export some raw data in case you have some question and you can answer it only by exporting raw data. And the last point here is that sometimes ready analytics solutions can use your data for their purposes, for example, to build some ML prediction models or to provide benchmarks for the industry. And usually this is common for free analytics solutions, but For some developers, it's okay. For some, it's not so okay. So it's up to you. And here is the slide with what game developers say, so that all my words that I've said before, they should have some ground. So that is why I here quote some game developers. For example, one of them is Craft Games lead analyst. At Craft Games, they're using in-house and ready analytics solution simultaneously. And here they explain why. Because ready solution allows them to get necessary insights much faster, and it automates a part of daily routine. So to solve many of the tasks, analysts, the team doesn't need an analyst, so the analyst can work on more complex issues. And the second quote is by Gameline. Here they point out that ready solution can replace years of work that they would have spent on building their own solution. Okay, so now let's sum up which points you need to consider when choosing an analytics solution. First of all, who is going to use the analytics solution? What is your team experience? Are they ready to work with SQL, or do they need very easy metrics? And what is the structure of your team? For example, do you need some to restrict some accesses to some roles or not? Check if the platform of your choice allows to do this, allows to set different access rights. Secondly, check which ready reports are already available in the system. Most of the systems nowadays, they have demo projects which you can easily access and check all the reports that they have out of the box. So use this chance. Third point, how flexible is the system? Does it have all the filters and all the cohorts that you would need to answer your question? Does it have SQL? Does it allow you to explore raw data and so on? The next point, which is very important, check all the limits that the platform of your choice has. Check how many custom events you can create. Are there any restrictions for how many custom events can be sent per session? How many parameters can you add to a custom event? How many users can access your account, and so on and so forth. The next point to consider is raw data access. Does your system allow you to, does it store raw data, and does it allow you to export it to work manually with it? Of course, consider pricing and take into account not only your current MAU, but also in case your audience scales, ask for the pricing. And also consider all available integrations, because you should keep in mind which tools you're planning to use and check if the system of your choice has integrations with these tools. Okay, now that we have chosen an analytics platform, let's talk about the next point. It's about creating a map of events. So usually when we're talking about product analytics, we're talking about event-based analytics. And to log the activity of users, we're sending custom events to the analytics system. So how to name them? These are examples of how you can name your events. For example, element action, quest updated, booster used, store open. This is the most common way to name your custom events. Alternative is screen element action. But again, the first alternative is much more common. Also, check in your system, in the analytics system that you're going to use, if they have any basic events, because they can save you a lot of time. For example, in devtodev, you have some basic events for leveling up, for tutorial steps, for in-app purchases. So you basically copy them and paste into your app, and you don't need to create custom events for this purpose. Okay, so where can you create your map of events? Actually, a standard Excel file works just perfect for this purpose. just make sure that it contains the following information: your app version, screen, trigger, the condition for sending the event name, and parameters. The parameters are characteristics of your event. For example, you can have event booster used, and then in the parameter you can put which exactly booster was used. It can be, let's say, a bomb or a potion, etc. And also some SDKs collect characteristics by default, so you don't need to send them in the event. For example, country, language, app version, all of this is collected by SDK automatically. So you don't have to do extra work and put it in the parameters of events. Okay, now we're moving on to the last part of the presentation, which is about connecting all your tools into one single ecosystem. So in addition to your product analytics, most probably you're going to use some additional tools. This can be user acquisition platforms, ad mediation platforms, push notifications, in-app messages, services, remote configs, A/B testing tools, subscriptions trackers in case you have subscriptions. And it's very important that they are all connected to each other. So take a paper and literally draw the scheme of how all these tools are going to connect to each other and what information they can send to each other. I will try to illustrate why it is important. For example, you've noticed that there is an audience in your game that are paying audience, but for the last month they haven't been paying, and you want to activate them because you see potential in them, and you want to send them a special offer as a push notification. So you need to make sure that you can send the list of these users from your product analytics platform into your push notification service. And then you need to make sure that your product analytics platform also knows about the fact that the push has been sent, because then in your product analytics platform, you can explore the user paths after users have received the notification, right? And I will show you how this scheme can work on a real example, on the example of devtodev. And for those of you who do not know, devtodev is an analytics platform that helps you to analyze, predict, and influence players' behavior. And we've created devtodev with an idea for it to be a central hub for all your data. And you can see here our data sources. The main source is SDK. We collect events via SDK about user behavior. Then in addition, you can connect attribution platforms and ad revenue platforms as well. So you have a full statistics in devtodev. And basically, that's it. You don't need any extra integrations because all the rest is done on our side. Now we have inside our tool SQL, we have push notifications, A/B testing, LTV prediction, subscriptions tracking in case you use subscriptions in your game. So this is the scheme of how it can work for you. Okay, so we have covered the most frequently asked questions by game developers that they are asking when they're choosing and integrating analytics solution. And I hope that the criteria for choosing the analytics platform that I've mentioned today in the presentation were useful for you. And that also one point that I wanted to stress here is that try to think about your analytics as one single ecosystem where all tools ideally should be connected to each other. So pay attention to this. And in case you have any questions, in case you want to clarify something about the presentation, feel free to ask me questions now or send me an email. You can see it on the screen. Yeah, that's it on my side. Okay, so we're getting some questions. The first one, what we can advise to indie game developers from where to start. Okay, so start from choosing the analytics that you think would fit you in terms, I guess, budget and in terms of functionality? Because for indie game developers, I think budget is one of the most important questions. So check the solutions that are free or freemium, because sometimes even very sophisticated paid solutions, they have free version, for example, up to a certain amount of MAU, or for some amount of data points. So you can check out these alternatives and integrate the analytics, try to integrate analytics before you launch the game, so that everything is set up, so that you're not in a rush once you're launched. So you have some time to think about what are the questions that you're going to ask to the analytics system. I hope that answers the question. If you have any other things that I need to clarify, please let me know. What is it important to analyze for a hyper-casual game? That's an interesting question, because obviously in hyper-casual, things are working slightly different than for casual games. Many of the things that you need to track in casual games would be not relevant for hyper-casual. So first thing, in hyper-casual, you need to be able to integrate analytics very quickly, because you literally time is the most important thing in hyper-casual. So you need to make sure you have an analytics solution that you can integrate in a couple of hours and start working with it very quickly. Second thing, what to track. Of course, you would need to track your audience metrics, like your new users, your DAU, MAU. You would need to track your retention. I think retention would actually be one of the most important metrics for you. And monetization, yeah. For hyper-casual, usually you need to track ad revenue, not only in-app purchases. So make sure you can connect your ad revenue to your product analytics platform. That would help you to have a complete picture of what is going on inside your game. Okay, so there are no more questions, so we can finish. I was happy to make this presentation. And again, in case you have any additional questions, feel free to contact me via email.